I'm practicing here on Facebook Live. Hi, everyone. I I'm going to see if I can share in my group. I'm going to share into Sacred Oasis Legacy, and I'm really excited to be doing this. This is the first time I'm giving it a shot, and I am interested to know how it sounds, how it is. What we're up to today is talking about Sacred Oasis Legacy. For those of you who know me personally, you may know that when I met Richard Aaron, hey, Melissa Andesirio is watching. Thank you so much, Melissa. I am here for the first time using both my YouTube and my Facebook. I'm patting my head and rubbing my stomach. I'm doing all the things all at the same time. And so I can't wait to hear later. Maybe you and I can get on the phone and we can give a little catch up and talk together about it. And what I'm after today is to give a little backstory. I wanted to back way up to a time years ago when I was feeling very down, very sad. It was a tough time because I was in a marriage that was apparently ending. I didn't want it to end. I rather wanted to have a marriage that was going to turn around. I wanted a marriage that was going to be great and turn around. I wanted to live the dream. And at the time, there were various things that were going on. The upshot is that I took myself on a retreat. I created something. And the interesting thing is what I created back then, how many years? Maybe was it 15 or so years ago, 18 years ago, actually, is something that I have in my heart to create for other people today. Because you know what I know is if a whole lifetime ago, when I did not know what to do, if I was able to create something that was a meaningful weekend for myself, that I am totally able to do that for you as well, or for someone you know. I wanted to tell you about somebody I met that weekend. What did I decide to do? I brought my kids back from the city we were living in, which was Sao Paulo, Brazil. I brought them to Thousand Oaks, all three kids, and my parents were kind enough to look after them. They were little at that time, and it was really a special gift to me that my parents and sister were willing to help me and to look after my three very active children. And I went to the city where I was born, Kansas City, Missouri. Yes, indeed. I was born in the Show Me State, and I guess that's always been how it's been for me. Show me, tell me. I want to know the things. I want to know the evidence. I want to know how it works. And it says here that I can bring Melissa Andesirio on. And Melissa, let's give it a shot. I'm going to send a request. I've been doing lives over on TikTok, and I haven't been successful at bringing you on. Now, this is going to be interesting because I'm going to have Melissa over there on Facebook, and I'll be having a conversation. And then over here on YouTube, you're just going to be hearing the one side of it. That's an interesting wicket, isn't it? We'll see what happens. It says that it's adding Melissa Andesirio, who is a dear friend who I met when I was on a mission trip in Brazil. Meanwhile, I'm going to tell about this lady, Carol Hewitt. Carol Hewitt is a lady I met in an unusual way. Right here, she wrote this book, and when I got to Kansas City, Missouri, I was so excited. Oh, look, here comes Melissa Andesirio. And you know what, folks, over here, I am so sorry. She's over here on Facebook. And I don't know. I think we'll keep this up. And, Melissa, because I'm trying something out, I don't think we'll stay on long together because I am talking to two different cameras, and it might be weird. But I wanted to just acknowledge you. For anybody on Facebook, I would love for you to friend my dear, sweet friend, Melissa. Melissa, what do you have to say for yourself?
I am just so excited about what God is doing. You know, I just recently became a national best-selling author, getting ready to do some great conferences. I have new workbook and book coming out. God is opening doors. Fresh outpouring is flowing from heaven.
Oh, that's so good.
Things are happening.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad that that is all happening for you. And like I said, this is my very first time on here. So I appreciate you saying hello. I'm going to say goodbye. And the reason why is because I have a little story to tell. And I'm over here on YouTube as well. So I'm trying a little thing. We'll have to talk together offline and see about scheduling something actually that we mean to do together. That would be amazing. And God bless you.
God bless you. Great job.
All right. Take good care. And ooh, let's change to viewer. That's what I want to do. My goodness, you're able to do crazy things. Like, anyway, that was sweet. I got to see a friend who I hadn't seen in a long time who lives on the West Coast. But I'm going to tell you all about this friend who I met when I was in Kansas City. Now, this is not a friend I knew ahead of time. I went to a bookstore in Kansas City, and it's very exciting if you live in a country where there are not bookstores in your native language, and there were not bookstores in English in the city of Sao Paulo. And so to get to Kansas City, I didn't have my kids. I had a little time. I went into the Barnes and Noble, and right in the front was a table of local authors. And I scoped it out and I looked around. It was so exciting to think here I was in my hometown and all these local authors. And so this was one book that I saw. And when I saw this book, it caught my attention because Carol Hewitt is someone who came from Southern California, like I had. She was older than me. She was probably 25 or 30 years older than me. And she had had a very tragic time where her husband had suffered with cancer for years and years. And then he finally passed away. But she was a person of faith. And what ended up happening is her life opened up. And she ended up being a missionary to a group of Cambodians who lived in LA. She was able to travel to other places and to serve people. And then finally, in retirement, she came to Kansas City where her children were also involved in ministry. And she was able to connect with a church that is still well known till this day, where at the time, one of the attractions that I had was to go to that church because they had 24/7 prayer. And I felt I needed a lot of prayer. I was in a difficult time. And so I picked up her book, and I had other appointments with people I had heard about and I had planned to be with, a life coach who I had met through a friend in Sao Paulo. I knew a professor from Azusa Pacific University uh, leadership studies course who I had met again in Brazil. And there were several others who I'd heard of. My sister's godmother still lived in Kansas City. And I was able to reach out to her and have some connection to the time that I didn't know, my parents had lived there. We left Kansas City when I was a 3-year-old. I had never returned. And so, in fact, I did not know Kansas City. But I had all these other friends. But in the in-between times, I read this book. And it struck me. This lady had had this big transition in her life, and she ended up being able to have a very satisfying and meaningful time, even though her husband had died and she had to, she ended up with a new, different life. And I decided I am in Kansas City. This lady lives in Kansas City. She comes from the area of the country that I'm from. We probably have friends in common. I want to meet her. I was staying with my former brother-in-law who played for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I told him, "Hi, if you see this book, I just read it. This lady lives here. I'm going to meet her." And he said, "Well, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do? How are you going to meet her?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm going to Google her, I guess." I knew that she was associated with the church that I had an interest in and that I was planning to visit while I was there. So that was one stop I made, was at that church. Do you all know Carol Hewitt? Well, it's a huge church. There are, I'm sure, many people associated in one way or another with it. And the girl at the information desk hadn't heard of Carol Hewitt. But nevertheless, I Googled her. She had children who were involved in a ministry in town. So I thought, well, let's look at that. And as the days wore on, I did all the different checking I could, and ended up, by the end of Sunday, had not been able to run across Carol Hewitt. I had met the life coach. I had set up appointments with the family friend, And I had opportunities to chit chat with my brother-in-law and his girlfriend, and it was a lot of fun. But I still, I hadn't met Carol Hewitt. So, nevertheless, my last day was there. I had an appointment with the man who was the professor at Azusa Pacific University. I had an appointment to have lunch with him, but in the morning, I I was at a loose end, and the church that I'd mentioned, it had 24/7 prayer. They were always open. You could always go there. And I thought, well, let me go over there one last time. It was a Monday morning, and I thought, I don't know if I've sorted much out. I took some time for myself, and I am looking forward to moving ahead. I want to uncover what it is God has for me. So I'm going to go one last time. I'm going to spend some time in prayer at this church. So I went over there, and they have a huge auditorium. They always have people on instruments in the front singing songs and leading worship. And so I went into that space. It was a Monday morning. Not too many people were there. There might have been 15 people in this space that held, I don't know, 300, something like that. I wouldn't expect there to be a lot. There were just a few. And I went and sat down, 3/4 to the back, second seat in from the edge. And I settled in, and I started just closing my eyes and thinking about God and thinking about my heart and, thinking about the things that were needing to be solved. When, surprisingly, a little old lady walked in the room and sat right next to me. Guess who it was? Yes, it was this lady, Carol Hewitt. How did I know that? Well, this church, again, there were maybe 15, 20 people sitting in chairs. And that lady walked in and sat right next to me. So I turned to her and I said, "Is your name Carol?" She looked at me and said, "Well, yes, it is. How do you know me?" And I said, "Are you Carol Hewitt?" And she said, "Well, yes, I am. How did you know?" And I said, "I have your book. And I told God I wanted to meet you this weekend." I told her my story about how I had come to Kansas City on a pilgrimage, really. I was in Kansas City, which is in the show me state, and I was saying, "God, show me. Show me what you want me to do. Show me who I am to you." My heart was troubled because my marriage was not the way I wanted my marriage to be. And nobody wants their marriage to end. Nobody gets married and says, "I can't wait to get a divorce." Nobody does that. At least very few people do. And if they do, they're troubled. There's something wrong. But in my case, I really didn't want my marriage to end. But at the time, I have to be honest, what I wanted was for uh, like a fairy to come down and tap us with fairy dust and make the marriage better, because I did not know how to make my marriage better. I didn't know. Yeah, that's really kind of what I wanted when I look back. I did not know how to be the type person who could have a successful marriage with the type man I was married to. I didn't know those things. I didn't have those skills. And I kind of wanted a magic pill, a magic bullet. Well, not a bullet. No, that's not a good analogy. I wanted a magic pill. I wanted fairy dust. I wanted something like that. And um, I was looking, I was looking for the answers. The name of Carol Hewitt's book is from Ashes to Glory, because again, she had to step out of a marriage that ended. And in her case, it ended. Hey, Brandon Kaufman is watching. Hey, Brandon Kaufman, I'm not going to invite you on the video because I am testing out something. I am on YouTube over here and Facebook over there. And so I'm trying this thing out right now. I'm seeing if this is more fun than TikTok. I think I might start YouTubing and Facebooking instead of TikToking. We'll see. Meanwhile, I am telling a story about how a lady um, who I had heard about through picking her book up, sat right next to me the last day of my visit in the city where I was born, when I went there on a pilgrimage to try to find out what to do with my life. Yeah. And the upshot is that she sat right next to me. We ended up meeting, but she did not sprinkle fairy dust on me. She did not say, I've got a prophetic word from the Lord. She didn't do any of those things. She didn't. She listened carefully. She prayed empathetically. And Marky Mark Hamilton is on. Yeah, look at my hair. It's pretty, isn't it? I am telling a story, Marky Mark. That's what I'm doing. I am telling a story, Marcus. And my story is about how a lady whose book I had just bought sat down. And it was really a miracle because there's no reason other than the grace of God, other than the direction of God, that she would have sat down right next to me. We ended up connecting. She was very empathetic. She listened to me. There was an occasion later when I was back in Brazil that she picked the phone up and I was able to talk with her one more time. But she did not have any definitive, like, oh, I know for sure God's going to save your marriage. She didn't have anything like that. And dang it, I wish that she had, because that would have been more fun in many ways, wouldn't it? If there had been magic fairy dust and I could have stepped back into a different marriage when I got back from Kansas City into my real life with my 3 little boys. But instead, what ended up happening is that marriage ended. Fast forward, the next year, after our home was robbed at gunpoint, after their dad was no longer living there, he got a job in Russia and he didn't invite us. He didn't invite the boys and me to join him in Russia. And so we ended up coming back to my hometown of Thousand Oaks, which was a place that we were not used to. My boys and I weren't used to it. We hadn't lived here. We just came for summers. It was, to us, a foreign country, even though it was my hometown. My oldest son had to start 5th grade, the last year at the elementary school. Not an easy time to start in a new school. My middle son was so unhappy and dissatisfied and just basically sad that we ended up homeschooling. And he was a pill a lot of times. It was hard to deal with him. So he did 2nd grade again the next year and settled in a little better. My youngest son went to preschool up the road. He went in a wagon up the road and went to the preschool that I had gone to when I was a 3-year-old. And so that brought things full circle for us. Fast forward even further, my children were grown. I began to date and really take that very seriously. I ended up meeting Richard, and we started Sacred Oasis Legacy, which is a community. It's for single moms of sons and sons of single moms to have happy lives, joyful lives, to find their healing, to move forward with their next steps. And I think that right in here, I see a mom who was a single mom of 3 sons, or is a single mom of 3 sons. Bless you, Melissa. And I believe that I got 2 sons of single moms on this broadcast. Yes, I do. So isn't that fun that you all are here? And so I am going to end this with a blessing. I want to say that God is with you. God is with you, even when you wish that it could work out a different way. You wish there could be a little magic fairy dust and things would change. Even today, I really wish that things could do that from time to time. And in this life, the Bible promises that we are going to have different kinds of pressures and problems. We are. But be of good cheer. Why? Because you have overcome the world in Christ. And we have the ability to be in Christ, to be unified with Christ. And we have the ability to represent God's light on earth. We have the ability to do that. We have the ability to be there. And I am really excited that you all are here. And I'm thinking this is feeling like it's more my vibe, maybe than TikTok is. Yeah, TikTok seems a little. Wah! I'm getting on TikTok. I am. I'm doing little shorts on there. So if you want to see me, go on there. But I'm thinking, I'm kind of liking this. I'm kind of liking this. Maybe this way is the way to go. So I would love for you to notice the link. If you want to click on my link and set up an hour and get together, I would love that because we would be able to talk further. We are very serious in Sacred Oasis Legacy to be available for single moms of sons, in particular, at this season in our business. That is really who we're after because those single moms of sons are changing the world. When your heart is healed, when you gain the confidence you need, you are going to be able to let go of what doesn't belong on your shoulders, hand it over to your sacred partner. You are going to be able to give God what you shouldn't carry, and your children are going to be better off. That's going to happen. For sons of single moms, the message I have for you today is who are you being today that is stronger, better, more resilient, and more empathetic out in the world because of, not in spite of, the fact that your parents' marriage didn't make it or that you were just raised by a single mom, as in the case of Marky Mark. I know your story. I know your story. And sometimes single women choose the maternal path and aren't 100% prepared for it. In fact, no woman is truly, truly prepared for it. And it always helps when there is unity in that parenting situation, when there are two parents, a man, a woman, a dad, a mom, and those children are raised in that way. That's always better. Doesn't always happen. And you know what? There are blessings because of, not in spite of, you're being raised in that way that show up as empathy, that show up as resilience, that show up as how are we going to solve this problem? Because, hey, this problem is a little crazy. I am going to kiss you guys goodbye. We're going to try this again and we're going to see how this goes. I am interested in knowing how the lives are, how the sound is. If you have any comments, let me know. Let me know. And we're going to say goodbye right now.